As your eyes open, you will see that your state of health, happiness, and every circumstance of your life has been, in large part, arranged by you, consciously or unconsciously. I don't know what you mean, but I don't think I agree with it. Well, here's a story about a guy like you, Dan. On a construction site in the Midwest, when the lunch whistle blew, all the workers would sit down together to eat. And with singular regularity Sam would open his lunch pail and start to complain. "Son of a gun," he'd cry, "not peanut butter and jelly sandwiches again. I hate peanut butter and jelly." Sam moaned about his peanut butter and jelly sandwiches day after day after day. Weeks passed, and the other workers were getting irritated by his behavior. Finally, another man on the work crew said, "For Christ's sakes, Sam, if you hate peanut butter and jelly so much, why don't you just tell your old lady to make you something different?" "What do you mean, my old lady?" Sam replied. "I'm not married. I make my own sandwiches." Socrates paused, then added, "So you see, we all make our own sandwiches in this life." He handed me a brown bag with 2 sandwiches in it. "Do you want cheese and tomato or tomato and cheese?" he asked, grinning. "Oh, just give me either," I gestured back. As we munched, Socrates said, "When you become fully responsible for your life, you can become fully human. Once you become human, you may discover what it means to be a warrior." "Thanks, Sock, for the food for thought, and for belly." I bowed grandly. Then I put on my jacket, and got ready to leave. I won't be by for a couple of weeks. Finals are coming up. And I also have some hard thinking to do. Before he could comment I waved goodbye and left for home. I lost myself in the semester's last classes. My hours in the gym were spent in the hardest training road ever done. Whenever I stopped pushing myself, my thoughts and feelings began to stir uneasily. I felt the first signs of what was to become a growing sense of alienation from my everyday world. For the first time in my life, I had a choice between 2 distinct realities. One was crazy, and one was sane, but I just didn't know which was which. So I committed myself to neither. I couldn't shake a growing sense that maybe, just maybe, Socrates was not so eccentric after all. Perhaps his descriptions of my life had been more accurate than I'd imagined. I began to realize how I acted with people, and what I saw began to disturb me. I was sociable enough on the outside, but I was really only concerned about myself. Bill, one of my best friends, fell from the horse and broke his wrist. Rick learned a full twisting back somersault that he'd been working on for a year. I felt the same emotional response in both cases. Nothing. Under the weight of my growing self-knowledge, my self-esteem was sinking fast. One night, just before finals, I heard a knock at my door. I was surprised and happy to find Toothpaste Susie, the blonde cheerleader I hadn't seen in weeks. I realized how lonely I'd been. "Aren't you going to invite me in, Danny?" "Oh, yes. I'm really glad to see you. Sit down, let me take your coat. Would you like something to eat? Something to drink?" She just gazed at me. "What is it, Susie? You look tired, Danny." But she reached out and touched my face. "There's something. Your eyes look different, somehow. What is it?" I touched her cheek. "Stay with me tonight, Susie. I thought you'd never ask." I brought my toothbrush. The next morning I turned over to smell Sue's tousled hair, sweet like summer straw, and to feel her soft breath on my pillow. I should feel good, I thought, but my mood was grey like the fog outside. For the next few days, Sue and I spent a lot of time together. I don't think I was very good company, but Sue's spirits were enough for both of us. Something kept me from telling her about Socrates. He was of another world, a world in which she had no part. How could she understand when I couldn't even fathom what was happening to me? Finals came and went. I did well, but I didn't care. Susie went home for spring vacation, and I was glad to be alone. Spring vacation was soon over, and warm winds blew through the littered streets of Berkeley. I knew that it was time to return to that warrior's world, to that strange little gas station, this time perhaps more open and more humble than before. But now I was more sure of one thing. If Socrates cut at me with his sharp wit again, I was going to slash right back. Book 1. The winds have changed, gusts of magic. It was late evening. After my workout and dinner, I took a nap. When I awoke it was nearly midnight. I walked slowly through the crisp night air of early spring toward the station. A strong breeze blew from behind me, as if impelling me forward along the campus paths. As I neared the familiar intersection, I slowed down. A light drizzle had begun, chilling the night. In the glow from the warmly lit office I could see Socks shake through the misted window, drinking from his mug, and a mixture of anticipation and dread squeezed my lungs, and accelerated my heartbeat. I looked down at the pavement as I crossed the street, and neared the office door. The wind gusted against the back of my neck. Suddenly chilled, I snapped my head up to see Socrates standing in the doorway, staring at me, and sniffing the air like a wolf. He seemed to be looking right through me. Memories of the Grim Reaper returned. I knew this man had within him great warmth and compassion, but I sensed that behind his dark eyes lay a great unknown danger. My fear dissipated when he gently said, "It's good that you've returned." He welcomed me into the office with a wave of his arm. Just as I took off my shoes and sat down, the station bell clanged. I wiped the mist off the window, and looked out to see an old Plymouth Limpin with a Fiat tire. Socrates was already headed out the door wearing his army surplus rain poncho. Watching him, I wondered momentarily how he could possibly have frightened me. Then rain clouds darkened the night, bringing back fleeting images of the black-hooded death of my dream, changing the pattering of the soft rain into bony fingers rumming madly on the roof. I moved restlessly on the couch, tired from my intense workouts in the gym. The conference championships were coming up next week, and today had been the last hard workout before the meet. Socrates opened the door to the office. He stood with the door open and said, "Come outside, now," then left me. As I rose, and put on my shoes, I looked through the mist. Socrates was standing out beyond the pumps, just outside the aura of the station lights. Half shrouded in darkness, he appeared to be wearing a black hood. I was not going out there. The office was like a fortress against the night, and against a world outside that was beginning to grate on my nerves like noisy downtown traffic. No, I wasn't going out. Socrates beckoned me again, then again, from out in the darkness. Surrendering to fate, I went outside. As I approached him cautiously, he said, "Listen, can you feel it?" "What?" "Feel." Just then the rain stopped and the wind seemed to change directions. Strange, a warm wind. The wind, Sock. Yes, the winds. They're changing. It means a turning point for you. Now, you may not have realized it, neither did I, in fact, but tonight is a critical moment in time for you. You left, but you returned. And now the winds are changing. He looked at me for a moment, then strode back inside. I followed him in and sat down on the familiar couch. Socrates was very still in his soft brown chair, his eyes riveted upon me. In a voice strong enough to pierce walls, but light enough to be carded by the March winds, he announced, "There is something I must do now. Don't be afraid." He stood. "Socrates, you're scaring the hell out of me," I stammered angrily, sliding back in the couch as he slowly came toward me, stalking, like a tiger on the prowl. He glanced out the window for a moment, checking for possible interruptions.